Fresh look at our lives in Kenya today. We're looking at our children and wondering what is going on with the indiscipline, the violence, the arson that we have seen in our schools. And we're asking, is it time to bring back caning? To cane or not to cane our children? And we've been joined by Mr. Kamau, an education expert, Mr. Ondimu, and Honorable Sosion. And we're asking, we've got feedback from Elihu in Kitui, who's a teacher, and he says, we as teachers do not have the strength to cane learners. Mr. Kamau, how would you even police a teacher beating a student?
And just to echo that point, Irene says, nope, parents just need to step up. No one is caning my children to death. Thank you. Rebecca says, are we just going to forget those teachers who used to take out their personal issues on students? Kwanza wakiwa on duty, case closed.
Yes, which is similar to the tweet we've also received,
Yes.
who says some teachers don't know the difference between discipline and abuse. Because this thing was outlawed for a reason.
Yes.
So why are we thinking of going back?
When it comes to the issue of caning, I think before a child should be caned, there should be a reason why. I believe that when I was young, my mom would tell me, today, you did this and this. You eat first, then I'll cane you. After eating and after getting caned, I would revert back and find out, why was I caned? I was caned because of this and that. I believe that when we treat children like cats, unambia pussy, this is wrong. Don't do this. Don't come to school when you are late. Do your homework on time. If this child fails to do homework and you give that child one cane, and the child realizes that I've been given that one cane because I've not finished my homework, I believe that is reasonable. But we don't cane. The caning that we see sometimes in the social media, it doesn't come out very well. But when a child is at least punished with a reason, and first of all you make the child understand the reason, I think it can make some sense.
I have a question for Mr. Sosion, and I hope he's still with us. You've heard what Mr. Kamau has said. Now, in a situation where there's a class with 100 students, with only one teacher, and you have told this teacher you cannot use corporal punishment to ensure that your class is running the way that it should run, what other way can this teacher discipline students and ensure then that there is order in that class?
What, according to UNESCO, the number of learners in a class should not exceed 35. It's actually between 25 and 35. And that number is manageable. There is what we call class control. And a teacher is able to control that size of learners in any learning situation. But now where we have in Kenya, where we've over-enrolled, we've come up with 100% transition without looking at the availability of infrastructure and availability of teachers, and then now you recommend you bring in corporal punishment is actually mixed grilling chunks of challenges that are not going to make any sense. The central role of a teacher is class control and control of students with firmness. And being firm does not mean you must administer corporal punishment to bring students under control. No.
Okay, but now we have a situation where we have 100 students. We have a situation where we have 100 students in the class.
This debate of the cane.
Yes. So what do we do now? What you're talking about is the ideal situation.
Has no place. In fact, we don't need to waste our time discussing whether to cane or not, because they've already made a very explicit law that outlaws caning. And currently, if you try to persuade teachers to get back to cane, it is going to be a tall order. The first thing, are we ready as a country to withdraw our signature of commitment to international declaration to outlaw caning and all form of torture and punishment to learners.
That's okay, but what is
with consequences.
So what is the solution?
Really, I don't think it is a talk for entertainment and just for the sake to bring the cane or not to bring the cane.
What is the solution, Mr. Sosion?
We've already closed that chapter.
What is the solution?
By outlawing the cane through legislation. So if legislation says don't cane, why cane?
That's true, Mr. Sosion. You're not answering my question. I'm asking you, what is the solution? What is the solution? You have a class now that has 100 students. What you're talking about is the ideal situation of having 35. But Mr. Kamau here has a class with 100. Now, what schools like those need a practical solution as you look to how to reduce that number of students. Now they have 100. What should they be doing to ensure class control with the 100 that they have now?
Now, why did we get to 100 learners in a class in the first place? Now, then, as a country, are we really responsible in ensuring that our public school systems work? Are we really committed to put resources? Because to reduce a class of 100 to the recommended standard of 35 means we must have a government in place that is so committed and that puts resources as a priority. There's no shortcut about it. Countries that have done very well and which are at the top of the global competitiveness in quality and access, like Singapore, puts money without limitation. It is a first-line priority before security. You look at such countries, they spend money, first of all, in education before they even consider security. Because security comes from the quality of education that you give children. So let us not talk leisurely as if it is normal to have a class of 100 learners. That is madness. As a country that is independent and a country that levies taxes from citizens, we must give value for the taxes of the citizens by at least ensuring that we have the normal class sizes and well-trained and qualified teachers to do their work. Teachers have been trained not to cane, but they've been trained to manage learners. And they've got the necessary pedagogical skills to conduct teaching without necessarily caning.
Asante sana, Mheshimiwa.
In his school of 4,000, he doesn't have to supply canes to manage the learners.
Thank you, Mr. Sosion.
A very good point, Mheshimiwa. We must indeed invest in education. Mr. Ondimo, I want to ask you, it's time for our hard-hitting fact. We've seen what the CS has said. He's not only has he suggested caning, but he's also come up with some very stringent ideas that children, whatever you do in school, will follow you even into adulthood, where you'll be applying for a certificate of good conduct to get a job, and that could actually get in the way of your employment status. What do you think of such strict and such hard-hitting punishments?
I think that is what we call resigning to fate. In other words, we are saying that we cannot put in place mechanisms to prevent this, because what the CS is actually saying is more like treating the symptoms. Why can't we take the preventive approach first?
What is that preventative approach?
One is have strengthened guidance and counseling departments in schools. You'll find that even Mwalimu here, a school of 4,000, you'll find maybe there are 2 teachers who are in charge of guidance and counseling in that school. And in that department, maybe there are others, 2 teachers. You can imagine now 4 teachers dealing with 4,000 learners who have different problems. It is impossible. So guidance and counseling is very effective in curbing discipline, because the learners get an opportunity to vent out whatever that is disturbing them.
Right.
And then also we talked about the creating avenues of communication. when Matiang'i was the CS, he tried to implement the decision or previous reports that this particular prefect should be chosen by the learners themselves. Because initially, teachers could sit somewhere and then they see this boy is very good, so let him or the girl be the prefect. And that creates resentment among the learners. So let these particular councils in schools be empowered to act as the link between the teachers and the students. So communication is the greatest aspect. Even some of these things that you're talking about, and some of the problems that lead to these arson cases, maybe it is food. Leo marago ya kuiva, so wacha tuchome shule. You know, some of those things that can easily be solved. And there's also need to even take through our school principals and their teachers that the generation that they grew up in is very different from this particular kind of generation.
Yes.
The generation we have right now, they can know when the teacher is right and when the teacher is wrong. So you find that some teachers are wrong, and then they'll keep on pushing down the throat of the learners their decisions, which lead to some of these particular cases.
Okay. Mr. Kamau, parents have been pointed at. We have said, parents, Amkeni, do something, participate. What are two things, apart from discipline and beating the child at home, that parents can do to facilitate your work as a teacher and your success as a teacher?
Okay, one, parents should be very close to us.
Oh, not the student. I was thinking you were going to say the student.
Hold on first. Parents should be very close to teachers in this sense. They should be coming to our schools to find out how we are going on, faring on with their learners. But the problem is that they don't have that time. So they let them be close to us as teachers, and they keep on asking us questions. Sometimes I get, okay, once I call a meeting, sometimes in our school, you see if I'm expecting like 600 parents, for example, in class 7, I may get like 400. What about the other 200? And the 200 will be the cause of the problem. So I would say that it is very, very important for parents to get to us and also get into our shoes and to find out what we are going through, even in school.
Right. Then
okay, some of the parents, they will only wait for the books at home. Mulipewa homework. Yes, kama mzazi anaona there is no homework, then some noise will start hapa na pale. There is no homework, these teachers are not working. But they will never get time to come to school.
Okay. Yes. Let me rush you. So you want the parents to be close to you as a teacher, and then the second thing?
The second thing, as parents, they should be close to their children also. Because there are some scenarios, especially in places like Idroi, where I come from, where a parent can go for 1 or 2 or 3 days without seeing their child. Mtoto, the child comes very, very, very early in the day, say like 6, the parent has not come, the parent will come.
Okay.
And then in the morning, the parent now leaves again very early.
Okay.
So there should be also time to see the teacher and the parent and the child also.
And the child. Okay, yes. Asante sana. Mheshimiwa Sosion, I would like a hard-hitting fact from you. Specifically, the last time we spoke, you mentioned psychosocial support. After dealing with a global pandemic, all of us need psychosocial support. Is anything being done for the teachers coping with these students? Is anything being done in terms of psychosocial support?
I think we did not engage in proper projection of students' behavior after students being away for 10 months, and we did not foresee this type of reaction that is being expressed. Because if this was done, then this should have formed one of the key items and framework for psychosocial support, considering this type of behavior. We did not do it, and we did not adequately prepare for this in the reopening of schools, and we could be paying the price. Learners who have stayed out for 10 months outside school and with no much control from their parents and with exercising a lot of liberty. Either some of them are border riders and others have engaged in various activities in the economy, doing some types of businesses, child labor, and also social programs of their own. And we saw some children actually being declared lost and unknown, their locations unknown by their parents, only to be discovered to be engaged in some social party activities and moving around the country. Now, these learners enjoyed excessive freedom for 10 months. And then now you bring them back to a very stringent system where rules are very clear. You must wake up at 5. By 5, you must do cleanliness, be in class by 6, or be in classrooms by 5. And they were used to enjoying having all the peace the way they want. And of course, the demands of covering lost time, I'm sure it is not a very easy thing, and this could be piling a lot of pressure on them. And of course, talk about social distance. Did we reconfigure our dormitories to accommodate social distancing? Considering that we adopted a policy of 100% without preparing properly. And so what really could be happening in the dormitories? Could we be having congestion in double-deckers and triple-deckers? Did we require the double-deckers even for boarding in this kind of circumstance? We did not prepare, both for psychosocial and also infrastructure. And this is where we needed what we call completely different pedagogy skills for COVID. Because
unfortunately, Mheshimiwa, we are out of time.
Under congestion, yes.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you so much for highlighting that, yes, the plight of our children is dire. Actually, they've been out for 10 months and have had entirely too much freedom. And the adjustment back into school and order and following somebody else's directives is not an easy adjustment to make, yes. Thank you. Mr. Ondimu, Mr. Kamau, asanteni sana.
All right, and of course, thank you to you as well. But you know, the show does continue on Unplugged next. We have Kenya's very own Ben Soul, Papa Soul. He goes by so many different names, and I'm going to be talking to him in just a few minutes about his latest project. And it's got the best name ever.
What, Nairobi?
No. It's not called Nairobi. We went through quarantine.
Oh.
His latest project is Quarantunes. Stick around. That's going to be a really good interview on Unplugged.
Okay.
Next. Right now, Valentine's week.